Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and George Andre.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Bites podcast. Hello, George Andre. And today we have a very special guest. Today we have Diogo Guerreiro with us. Diogo is
Hey guys.
Diogo is a colleague, a Portuguese dentist. We actually were colleagues of course. So we finished together the course in 2001. So 95 to 2001.
Correct.
And Diogo, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. I'm going to be very honest with you. When I made the invitation, I thought maybe he's not going to accept. So thank you.
I'm very grateful for the invitation. Thanks, guys, for having me. And why would you think that? No, at all.
No.
At all. It's a pleasure to be here speaking with you. And I saw you on the podcast lately, but I didn't saw you for years, right? I mean, we graduated almost 20 years ago. Uh-huh. But thanks for having me. I don't know if I have anything to add to your brilliant podcast.
Well, one of the things that you have, I was commenting that to Manuela. I don't think that we have spoken many times, but I always got a very good energy from you. Always, and that's something that is.
Thank you.
Yes, it's true. I don't think that we have talked that many times. I've been with you once. I was with you once in something that Paulo Monteiro developed, the presentation skills course. It was in Lisbon. It was a very funny course. It was, and I remember that you were there.
You and a colleague, right? It was you and someone else. Yes. Yeah. Amazing guy. Yeah.
Yeah, such a cool guy. And we went out. I have an amazing story from that night, because we went out and there was this club in Bairro Alto where everybody would go. It was not a strippers club, but the highlight was like there was a stripping there. But everybody would go there, men, women. And I don't know how I got carried away into that place. And every night, the stripper would select someone from the audience, completely random. And
it was great.
It was me, Jesus. But it was like, because I always have this bad luck in this situation. So when someone told me, look, they always select one guy, and when the time came, I went just to the back of the audience, because I always bad luck with this. And then she went through the audience. She grabbed me, and it was like I was so shameful, because she spanked me. She did. Everything is recorded on video, but no one would like to show me that. So I remember that very well. But I always had a very good energy from you. Yes, it was quite. It was quite shameful, but I always had a very good energy from you. So I was, and that's probably one of the main reasons that I'm very excited to have you here, and of course of your background, and I know that you have, at least for a period of your professional life, you were a lot into lecturing, and you traveled the world lecturing, and you had some amazing presentations at that time. It was some cutting edge technology and some cutting edge design on your presentations, and we had to talk about that. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me. It's mutual. Again, Manuel, I know a little bit better from, even though when I was in school, I wasn't not in school for real. I was a little bit. I was just there to do the exams and stuff, but I wasn't the most brilliant student at the time, so Manuel was probably on the other side of the spectrum. But yeah, I don't think I had the maturity at that time actually to enjoy dental school, but I enjoyed dental school in another way. So Manuel, I know for many, many years. You, again, I remember you and Rui from that course. And then social media, right? And I've been really seeing Manuela on social media with the Mindful Dentistry. But apart from that, I kind of lost track of her, and as many of my colleagues from back then. But you, I started following you, and I became a really big fan of your work. I think you have more than the work, and it's something that I don't know if we have time to talk a little bit. I'm a little bit out of social media now. I started very early on social media, and I think I peaked and I kind of left social media a lot. But when I was in social media, more to the end of when I was very active, I remember seeing your cases, and then more than the cases themselves, I think again you also transmitted a lot of positive energy and a lot of.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's the word.
Thank you for that.
We are going to talk about social media further ahead because I knew that you were out of social media, and I think that's very interesting because dentistry and social media, it has this relationship. So we're going to talk about that later. But before we get into that, just tell us a little bit about your journey. Start by telling us why you chose dentistry. What was the reason, and a little bit of your journey until where you are now at this moment in your life.
And sorry, Diogo. You can start by what were you doing exactly on dental school beside classes. You can start.
Yeah. No problems. I have nothing to hide. When I finished high school, I have no one in my family that's related to dentistry or any other medical profession. They're more from the engineering side. But my sister, I have a sister, and she was a brilliant student, and she did pharmacy, and I'm younger. I'm 4 years younger, so I am the guy that my sister would cry. If she has 95%, she would cry, and I would be happy with 50. So my parents knew. Like, oh, okay, guy, just whatever, just go to university, just do something with your life. But my grades weren't awful in high school. When I graduated high school, I wanted one of two things, either a veterinary school or a dental school. Pros and cons, there was a time that I wanted to be a marine biologist, so these were the three things that I applied when I graduated from high school was marine biology, dental school, and vet school. I got into marine biology in FAR, and I got into dentistry in Monte Caparica. And I said to my mom, I'm going to go to marine biology in FAR because I love scuba diving and all that. And she goes like, no, you're not. So I guess that's how I got into dental school. Not knowing, and I think most of the students at that time, I don't know nowadays, I'm a little bit, I was teaching in school, but more of a graduate level, so I don't know much about undergrad. But at that time, and Manuela is here, and we probably graduated at the same time, we would go to dental school either clueless or people that wanted to go to medical school and didn't make it, right?
Absolutely right, yeah.
And I went to dental school, not knowing. I knew since a young age I was very good with my hands, with Play-Doh. My grandfather had a clay shop, So I used to build stuff when I was young. I knew I liked to do something with my hands. But dental school, when you get there, you get the first 3 years, it's just anatomy and biology and biochemistry. And honestly, the first year, I hated it. But then, you start getting into the school, you make new friends. I got into the Tuna, the musical group, for those who don't know in English.
Yeah, I knew that.
And then a whole world opened for me. It's like, it was not the school, it was not dentistry anymore. It was having fun with my friends. My mother calls me and says, hi, where are you? Oh, I'm in Canada. Like, are you in Canada? Yeah, we came for a show, for a festival. And that was my life. I used to go to bed at 5 a.m. With my friends playing guitar and drinking, and then I would wake up whatever time in the day, and okay, let's go to the rehearsal of the tuna. And that was my life for 6 years, and yeah, in between there was some studying, obviously, but if I don't tell that to my kids now, right, but back
we have to cut this part out.
It comes to show that there's time for everything. There's time for everything, and I don't regret what I did. And I learned when I graduated dental school. I realized that there was a lot that I had to learn, but I did learn it. Okay, so it's a different process. I don't know. I don't know if this is a cliche or not, but the best dentists that I know always had fun in dental school. Always had fun in dental school. There's time, and I tell this to my kids all the time. There's time for everything. It's not, I'm 46. I'm not going to have fun now. I'm not going to go out and drink. I'm not going to, I don't drink alcohol now, for example. I did back then socially, but I did, there's time for everything. And I don't regret anything that I did. I think it's part of the process of growing. But yeah, I did dental school, average student. I was not awful, but just average, right? I realized that I had to study a lot when I graduated because there was a lot of knowledge missing. And during dental school, I was pretty much useless for anything clinically apart from surgery and endodontics. The others were like, yeah, sure, but nothing really captivated me like endo. So when I finished dental school, I knew that I was going to go either surgery or endodontics. I worked a couple of years as a general dentist. Didn't quite like it as a general. Didn't quite like it also because at that time there was a lot of lack of knowledge, right? So when I say, I didn't like prosthodontics, I didn't know anything about prosthodontics, right? So that's why also I think I hated being a general dentist because there was so much that I didn't know. I thought the thinking process was if I specialize, maybe I can fuel my learning process to that. So that's what I did. So I went to do a master's degree. At that time there was none in Portugal, so I had to go to Spain. So I did in Santiago de Compostela. I did endodontics there, and then there was a couple of endodontists in Portugal at that time. There was Gingera, there was Pedro Cruz. There was not many, and me and Mario Rito, both of us went to Santiago, both from the same city. So we decided let's open a dental practice specialized in endodontics, this was 2005 or 6. It's kind of crazy at that time. But I was driving a old car, and for me, I'd rather buy a microscope, even though that was a very crazy idea at the time, than buying a new car. Let's go. So bought a microscope. Again, learning curve there, learning as I go. And then, there's no referral-based system in Portugal, so it's very hard to get patients referred. But I, started, and that time social media helped, obviously. The marketing helped in social media, but that was it. In the process, I married a Canadian dentist. So we met.
Yeah. Go on, please.
This sounds like a monologue. I'm so sorry.
No. I'm loving it. Sorry. You married a Canadian dentist. How did you meet? Was that doing some of your traveling to Canada with the tuna?
Correct. Yeah.
We
met in the Azores Islands. So she was part of a musical group from Canada of Portuguese immigrant kids that get together. They built a tuna. They were not affiliated with any university, but as a way of maintaining the Portuguese tradition in Canada, they built a tuna here of Portuguese immigrants, and they got a chance of going to play in the Azores because of the majority of the immigration here is from the islands, right? From the Azores Islands. So my tuna went to Azores to play on a festival, and she went to play there, and we sit in front of each other and on a dinner, and so where are you from? Oh, I'm from Canada. Oh, I'm from Portugal. So what do you do? Oh, I'm a dental student. Oh, I'm a dental student too. And she thought I was hitting on her. She's like, no way, this guy's a dental student. And I'm like, I am. So, and that's how we met, that's how I met your mother. But it was, and it was, I said, I would love to go to Canada to see the university. She's like, oh, you're welcome. So I went there a couple of times to have a look, and then they invited us to go play in Canada. And then, we became friends. And at that time, the only way to chat was through Mirk. I don't know if you remember.
I remember that. I remember that. The chat rooms.
Correct. And we used to chat, with the different timetables, but we would chat on Mirk, and then she would come here in the summers, and just friends. And after that, got to a point that we decide, well, is this gonna happen or not?
I like the detail. She came here every summer, just friends.
As friends, because her parents wouldn't let her move to Portugal unless we get married, and there was a big step, right?
Of course. I'm sure.
Meanwhile, I graduated. She was 2 years behind, because in Canada you have to go to university first before you go to dental school. So different. They do 8 years of university instead of 6 at that time that we did. So I graduated, and I had 2 years by myself before she finished. So I thought, okay, maybe I should apply to go to Canada. And I had the brilliant idea of, okay, I want to go to the UK to work. So I moved to the UK. For 2 years, I worked in the UK. My objective by moving to the UK was obviously a different experience. I had nothing to attach me to Portugal at that time. Nobody in my family was a dentist, only my friends. But I moved to the UK, and when I moved to the UK, the objective was, okay, let me work in an English environment, see if I like it. Maybe it will help me if I need to do any examinations in Canada, if I want to work in Canada later. I don't know. So I moved to the UK for 2 years. Terrible experience. Every experience has the good sides and the bad sides. Dentistry-wise, awful. I was working under the NHS. I don't know if you have heard the horror stories of the NHS. But yeah, I came back after the 2 years because the type of dentistry there was not for me, the type of dentistry at that time there. So I came back and then went to do the specialty in endodontics, and that's pretty much it.
It hasn't improved that much, to be perfectly honest. But yes.
I believe you. It was bad. It was bad at the time, but it was an experience. I was with a colleague from Portugal. Both of us went, so we were living together, and it was an experience. You learn, you grow up, and it was good in that sense. Dentistry-wise, was not, but
okay. So tell me. Sorry, tell me something. When was the time that you? Because I remember that you started to lecture quite a lot. Was that after or before London? Because, like I was saying before, I remember seeing some of your lectures, especially when I was giving a course in Foramen, the Dental Education Center in Porto. And I remember seeing at the time some of your slides, and at that time, the design of your presentations, like you were saying, you, Paulo Monteiro, Rito, you are really at the cutting edge wave of endodontics in Portugal. Many people don't remember that because in Portugal now they have a lot of courses of endodontics. But I remember at that time, the design of your slides, the presentations, and I also remember that you had a lot of connections with Nazari from Ukraine, and with the other guy from the friend of Nazari that they worked together at the time, because they also did endo. So you lectured a lot in Europe, and you lectured a lot with Paulo. How did that start? I'm sure you enjoyed that. I'm sure you enjoyed it because the quality of the presentations were really, really, really top notch.
I have to say that I have to mention Mario here because Mario was very important. as I grew up as a clinician, Mario was very important because he was my teacher in school, in dental school. But we were from the same city, so I remembered Mario. Mario is like 3 or 4 years older than me. But I remember being in high school in Stubal and Mario being in high school too. Like he was older. And when I graduated, when I was in dental school, I met him. He was my assistant professor in I think it was in prosthodontics and then later on in endodontics. But we connected immediately, you know. And by the time that I graduated, he was somehow my safe network, my safe net when I finished. As a guy that's very different from me. I was very, very impulsive, very aggressive, and he was the opposite, you know? He was always the guy that said, slow down, do this way. And you know, made me think a lot. And the fact that I had him by my side, not only clinically, and he still is an amazing clinician, but more like as a brother, you know, in my life, and kind of because you have, for sure, you and Rui probably are the same. You have friends, and you have friends that are like family, right? And he was like that for me. He was family, and at the time, he has an amazing capacity of looking at things with different eyes. You know, it's amazing. It's like you look at a cup, and he can build a slide on with a cup and looks awesome, while other people build a slide and it's like, you know. And I started taking that from him, and he was the one that led me and him both, and Paulo the same. All of us, I think the three together. We used to make sure that, you know, I always tell the story of the, how do you call, I don't know the name in English for a status, that transparent things that you used to lecture with, you know, the status.
The slides?
You would,
the old school slides.
Not even the slides. It was those transparent sheets that you place in the light that people used to use, the professors used to use on schools.
We had that. I remember Professor Alpera, biochemistry. You used to write the formulas, and I'm like, and I grew up with that, and I said, man, how can you teach endodontics, which is a 3D environment, with this, you know, or with slides, and it brought the hell out of me when I go to a lecture and I read text, or I read the classic blue background with yellow letters, you know, it bores the hell out of me. And people like me that have a really low attention span, doesn't work. So I just, what we tried to do was, and back then, the community was very small, right? Even on Facebook and social media. I always tell it as a joke, but it's true that if you write facebook.com/endodontics, that's my profile. So that's how old I am in Facebook, right? So there were not many people at that time. And we started making it the way that we would like to see it ourselves. And it worked, right? It worked. So it was nothing.
No. At the time, I perfectly remember some of your incursions in Eastern countries, and you were superstars over there.
No, I think that because there was not many people.
There was not many people. But the congresses, of course, today it's impossible to have congresses with hundreds of people like it was like 10 or 15 years ago. But I remember that you were really superstars over there. That, like, the presentations were just like amazing.
But it's still nowadays more about human relations than skills. That skill, and I don't think I am not, and I was not better than anybody. It was just the community was very small, and the word starts spreading. Like, oh, these guys, they have good cases, they have this. Nowadays, there's clinicians that but the community was very small. So we will start getting invitations for, oh, you want to come lecture in Bulgaria? Oh, I've never been to Bulgaria. That was the thing. It was like, I've never been there. Sure. But, you know, and then there's the other part of I have to work to make money, right? And the lectures were very nice. Oh yeah, I'm traveling all around the world, but in the end of the month, you come home and you're like, how do I pay the bills? And that's also started to change. Some people went to that world of lecturing and start getting paid for it. I kind of backed up a little bit, especially because I knew I was. It's all about. I believe that you have to set goals for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And my goal was never ever to be famous or to be a superstar in the endodontic world or to be known. That was not my goal at all. So while my goals were like, oh, I want to go to the United States, I want to go to do a program in a United States university. In my head, I had that goal, but I was going on the other way. You know what I mean? I was like, even though I liked, let's go to Malaysia. Oh my God, yeah, let's go to Vietnam. Sure, why not? But I was getting further away from my initial goal, and that's why probably I stepped back a little bit. But it was great times. It was amazing, right?
Yeah, and when you were sorry, Manuela, I just had that. I just inserted a question there that now I'm back on track. So the biggest challenges on your career, and for example, when you went for the US. Was it very difficult that transition, those exams, and how's it going now?
Yeah, it's different realities. Okay, different realities, different people, different environment. I'll tell you that. Dentistry is dentistry, endodontics is endodontics. The endodontics that we do in Setúbal, in Porto, in Michigan, or in Toronto, it's exactly the same. Okay, what changes is the people, and the people, and the system, and the environment you do it in.
So sorry. First, you were in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
And then you went to Canada.
Yeah, because they didn't recognize any degree. So my objective was to come to Canada because Cynthia, my wife, she's Canadian.
Yes.
And the objective was to move to where we are now, which is her hometown, Hamilton.
Yeah.
For me to come to Canada and to be an endodontist in Canada, I would have to do a program in a North American school because they don't recognize anything from Europe. And even though I tried to wave with here's my degree from Europe, they're like, no, you can't. So at that time, I thought, okay, so I'm going to apply to a U.S. school. The thing was, in Europe, everything is very close, right? When I was in Santiago, me and Mario would drive from Setúbal, 4-hour drive, which was insane for us, 4-hour drive. But when you're in North America and she's in Toronto, and if I was studying in Houston, it's a 5-hour by plane. So when we considered to move, I thought to myself, well, I have to move to a program in a range that I could visit my kids, because we had 2 boys at the time, right? Two babies. So looking geographically near Toronto, in Canada, there was only one program at the time, which was University of Toronto, had a program. Then I had University of Buffalo, very close to us, near Niagara Falls. But at the time, the program was in endodontics was, I wouldn't say a weak program, but was not a very advanced program. And then I had Michigan and Chicago. Chicago a little bit further away. Michigan was pretty close, Ann Arbor, so it would be a 4-hour drive from where Cynthia was living with the kids. The only problem was that University of Michigan is, I don't know if nowadays I've lost track of it, but it was at the time the #1 dental school in the world. And the endodontic program was like 200 or more people applying for 4 spots. You know what? I said, let me apply. I had nothing to lose, right? So I applied. You apply a year before going. So we thought, I'll apply. If I get called, I get called. If I don't get called, I continue with my life here. I had the practice in Setúbal. I was an assistant professor at the program in Lisbon.
Sorry, Diogo. So Cynthia, she was living with you at the time. in Portugal.
Yes, in Portugal. Yeah.
Okay, and so obviously you got in. So what do you think it made a difference that you got one of the lucky guys to be chosen? Do you think it was your cases? Do you think it was your background as a lecturer?
It's Michigan, the program director in Michigan is Neville McDonald. Is a guy he's from New Zealand, and he's a very down to earth guy. Very down to earth. I didn't know that, but when I went to the interview, I again experienced that I built during the years. Even when I was in Lisbon, and you interview people for the program in Lisbon, right? I don't care if you are a spectacular clinician or not. You're going to learn that in the program. I want to see if you're not an asshole, and if you can be in school for 4 years, and if you can behave as a normal human being around the people in the school. That's what we look for, right? So when I went to the interview, and I was selected for the interview, and that was like, I was ecstatic. I'm like whoa! And then people start going online, courses to prepare for interviews in dental school. Man, if you are not a moron, just act normally, okay? You go to an interview, be yourself, because if you are what they're looking for, it's a match, okay? If you go there and you try to be someone that you're not, it's going to work bad for both sides, for them and for you, right? And people go to programs and say, oh, the program sucks, this and that, because that match didn't happen. So for me, it was pretty straightforward. I went to the interview and I said, I laid the cards on the table. This is me. This is what I can offer. I am more mature now because all the party is gone. I'm more mature now. I have a background in endodontics. I come on time. I'm polite. So,
like you say, you show up clean, on time, and ready to do the job. And that's 90% of this. Yeah.
John Wooden, that's it. It's and I think that's more than anything else. I think that's why they choose me for the position. And I was there the 3 years of the program. Amazing time. I never had a problem with anybody. I loved the program. I learned a lot in the program because lots of people say that, oh, well, you were an endodontist. You were a teacher at the University of Lisbon in a specialty program, and you go to do a program in the US. Like, why? No, man, you have no idea what you learn. When you think you know everything, you don't learn anything more. But sure, I had a degree in endodontics. I was teaching endodontics, and I go there, and that's the big advantage of when you're humble to learn and you're open to learn, you learn. And those guys there, I still have gaps in my knowledge of endodontics like everybody does, but certainly I filled a lot of those gaps the 3 years I was in Michigan. So when I left Michigan, I was a different person. I was a different clinician. And most of all, I was much more tolerant, I think.
Okay, how different so I had two questions. So financially, was it difficult? And how much of a different person were you? And why was that?
Yeah, well, financially, programs are very expensive, right? But
in the US, especially.
It was in Canada, and I could get a loan from Canada. But it's expensive. But then when you graduate and you work as a specialist, you also make enough money to pay for the loan. So it's even though you're it's an expensive education system, but again, I don't regret it. And I left a different person. I mean, I think I value different stuff now. And I look back and the person that I was as a clinician. I think I'm much more empathic now than I was before. I'm much more tolerant. In Portugal, we don't have too much diversity. Okay.
Yes, I understand.
We don't have too much diversity. We are a very close society. Even though when I was there, I didn't realize that. Yeah. I think we are a very close society. And then when you go to North America, it's a mixture of cultures. It's everybody. It's a pot where everybody's there, and everybody has to respect everybody. Okay, and I don't think in Portugal we're there yet. Even though we have, again, and I brought, and it's something that in Michigan, I'm pretty sure they realize, I also brought some of the good things that we have in Portugal and that did have that, right? We are much more warm people. We are much more social people than North Americans or people living in North America. They're more kind of like kind of cold when it comes to relationships. But I was myself, even though in North America you can't come to someone and give 2 kisses in the face because that's very like wow. In Portugal we go and we kiss everybody, right? It's normal. You can't do that in North America. You shake hands. So now I go to Portugal and I shake hands because it's the way it is. But generally, yeah, I think it made me. I don't think it made me different in the way I work. That's why I nowadays I don't value at all the technical part of it. And that's one of the reasons that I kind of disconnected, because people still they show off the technical part as being the most important part of dentistry, and at all, it's important. Don't take me wrong, but when you get it. That's it,
It's not rocket science, is it?
It's not rocket science. You don't have to try. Again, unless you're trying to sell me something. If you try to sell me this instrument, you say, "Oh, this is the best instrument." You're selling it, right? It's a different story. But I don't think technically it evolved much in the past 20 years to a point that I would be a different person in that sense. But for sure, in human relations and the way I see the profession too, I'm much more relaxed. I was always relaxed. Don't take me wrong, but I think I'm more. I do my job, and that's it. I do my job. I'm very empathic to my patients when I'm there. I care a lot for the person that's in my chair a lot. That's what matters to me, especially in my specialty. Here, we deal a lot with emergencies, pain, trauma, and if you don't care about the person and you look at the tooth itself only, you'll never be a good endodontist. But apart from that, I think I draw a pretty clear line between what's my job and what's my outside life, and one of the reasons that I left social media was because that was consuming me. It was consuming me to the point that I get home and there was this need to produce content. I was treating a patient, and if I had to take 5 X-rays to get a good X-ray for Facebook, I would, which is wrong, and I admit it. My head was not in the right place.
I know exactly what you mean, because I still do the same sometimes, yeah.
And then social media became more of a self-promotion and ego booster than anything else, right? And when I realized that was happening and that was consuming me, I realized that it was affecting my personal life, right? So I decided to focus more on the work itself, and then when I leave work, and I love to talk in podcasts with you guys, and I love this type of social media. I love, right? I love to interact, but I don't go anymore, or I go comment on posts as a joke. I'm a jokester. I just joke in every post that I see that. When I can make a joke, I'll make it. But there was too much hate back then, and because especially in the community was small at that time, and it was bitter, and I don't want that to my life. Right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for continuing to comment, because it was due to a comment that you made on one of our posts that I had the idea of inviting you, and I immediately told to André, and he immediately said yes, let's invite him. He has a very good vibe. So thank you for continuing on commenting.
It's a good example of when I don't know now, I really don't follow that much, but back in the day when you posted a case, for example, or you posted something, the first instinct is to criticize.
Exactly.
The first instinct is to say something bad. Well, there's something wrong here, right? Yeah. And people take time to do that. But people don't take time to, when they see something that's good, that's positive, they don't take the time to say, guys, good job, good work, congratulations. Mm-hmm. And I wrote that because, when I saw it, I'm like, out of curiosity, let me listen to it a little bit. And I started listening and I said, man, this is new. This is a fresh air, right? So that's why I wrote it.
Thank you so much for that.
It's very interesting, that vision that you have on social media, and we can go there since you mentioned, because it was one of the things here that I wrote, that a comment that you post on your Facebook timeline just a few days ago, where you mentioned exactly that. So do you think, if you think that the first instinct is to criticize, is to see the mistake, is to go, why do you think that dentists continue to look for validation in social media then? Why do you think that social media is so used in dentistry?
FOMO, the acronym FOMO, fear of missing out. That's it. Uh-huh. People live in this fear of not catching the wave, But ask Rui, another wave will come after. You don't have to ride that one. And people are so afraid of not being in the wave, in the trend, to be trendy. Even though you don't know if that's the right thing to do, you jump on the bandwagon because, that's what everybody's doing, It's cool to be the first one to go there, or, and that fear of missing out makes people addicted to that. And then it's also that self-promotion that the person seeks validation. Okay, when you put something on social media, that's my opinion. I think everybody that puts something on social media seeks validation. How many of us put something on social media and then we have our phones there and we're like, let me see if someone commented on my post. Nobody commented. How many likes do I have? And we measure success based on that, right? And going back to that John Wooden, the UCLA basketball coach, he has this quote that I love, that he says, the difference between success and reputation, right?
Yeah.
Reputation is character and reputation, which comes with success, but reputation is what other people perceive you to be. And character is what you really are. Nobody will post crap. If I take a picture of myself and I look fat and all more, I'm not going to post it on Facebook, right? So I'm going to get the best picture that I can with all my lovely eyes and my nice hair, so people can put, I love you, look so nice, this and that, right?
That's the ego
then
boosting
you build
part,
reputation. There you go. But do you want to build reputation? Do you need to build that reputation? And when you say that, you're traveling around Europe and you're lecturing, probably because at that time I was building that reputation. Now, was that really who I was? Was that really my character? I think don't take me wrong, there's lots of people that can have it very close to what the reputation is and the character is. But some people, man, it's and I've got so disappointed so many times. Yes, because you have people that have a huge reputation and then they're just assholes, and that's what took me a little bit. I put that post like 2 weeks ago saying, man, I'm cured 2.5 years without.
Was it difficult?
2.5 years without needing to go like.
Was it difficult to leave social media?
No, was not.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Did you have reactions from colleagues asking what happened to you? Where are you?
No. Yeah, of course. People think, you are talking about mental health, and now because in our profession it's an issue, right? Yeah. we are very lonely. We are very
Yes.
lonely people.
Yeah.
Sometimes depression sets in, and we don't know we are depressed. Okay, and I don't know if it was that time that I left Michigan. So I had the sense of loss because you built a family. I went to Ann Arbor and I was there 3 years. Okay, and then even though I moved to my family, I kind of had the sense of loss. I kind of lost my Michigan family and my friends that I made there for 3 years. And I lost all those bonds that I did there. And when I moved here, I don't know if depression sets in, if you want to call it depression, but it was, again, it was like a restart, okay? I restarted in Lisbon. I restarted in UK. I restarted in Ann Arbor. And now I'm going to restart in Hamilton again. And maybe out of that, I always had to think, what was my goal, right? My goal was to be where I am now. Even though people said along the way, man, you have a job in a university here, man. I had people saying, you are so known. Like, being known is something, Who cares about being known? Like, who cares if they say, oh, you're a known endodontist? Does my work change? It doesn't change anything. You know what I mean? So at that time, when I moved, I was too much involved in social media, and I thought it was enough for me. It was enough I was not being the true me, if I put it that way. Too much of being bitter, too much aggression, too much bullying on social media, too much, and I'm not that. I'm a happy guy. I like to go on social media and do jokes. That's what I do with my friends. I go on, I put a joke, I make a comment, we laugh, and that's it. Okay? I got to the point when I moved to Michigan to here, which was 3 years ago, 2019. I don't need self-promotion. I don't need ego boosting. I don't need any of that. And I'm not saying that everybody that does it for those reasons. And maybe at some point of their lives, they need those ego boosts for some reason, which is legit. I don't criticize that. It was just for me, at that time, it was enough. And don't take me wrong, social media is very good. I wouldn't have found your podcast if it wasn't for social media. Sometimes my wife comes and said, oh, you heard about that flyer? No. Oh, it's all over Facebook. Yeah, no. So I miss for sure. But my friend, I am on social media. If you call WhatsApp social media, I have a little group of friends on WhatsApp, like 20 or 30 guys on a group chat, and that's what I do. I do that all day, That's my social media nowadays. It's talk with friends, joke, share pictures. That's what we do. I realized when I went back now 2.5 years, and I look on my Facebook and I look like, oh man, like why did I post this? Or even like, 4,000 friends. And I scroll on the first 100, I have no idea who they are. You know what I mean? So in my Instagram, which I started much later, I don't have anybody that I don't really know, which is different from Facebook. Facebook was ancient. But yeah, no, I'm not completely out, but I limit my, it was easy. Answering your question, sorry. It was easy to stop.
Tell me a little bit more about your moving after Michigan to Canada that you mentioned just earlier, because now you just do clinical work.
Yeah.
Do you miss teaching?
So now I was, I know. I mean, I do and I don't. So in Michigan during the program we have to teach. But we have to teach undergrad. And undergrad, it's in endo. Undergrad is where you teach endodontics from the 80s to the 90s, and then postgrad you teach to nowadays. No, I'm joking, but it's like that. I cannot teach something that I don't do. Even though I totally understand that when you teach undergrad, you have to teach them different techniques, more basic techniques, but endodontics advanced so much that at a specialty level, we do things, it's not better or worse, it's just we do things differently. And then you go to undergrad and try to teach someone that never did an access cavity, and I don't think I was a very good teacher, or I don't know. I don't think I did it the time that I was in Michigan because it was part of the curriculum we had to teach undergrad. So when I left Michigan, I'm like, there's no way I'm going back. I'm going back to teach, especially undergrad. Grad school, it's different, but I like to be in the microscope. That's what I like to do. For me, the most relaxing is patients frozen, rubber dam is on, I put the microscope in, and I zone out. And it's like 1.5 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever I need. I have no stress. It's that. That's it. People say, that's the best part for me. Okay? Not dealing with payments or complaints about payments. That's a stress. The work itself, for me, it's the relaxing part of dentistry. When I moved from Michigan to here, I was very, very lucky because I found a Portuguese guy. This is insane. So he was born here, or I think he was born in Lisbon, but he came here very young. So he did all his dental school here. He did his high school here, his dental school here. And Cynthia knew him because he was a teacher at the University of Toronto. I think it was a dental anatomy or something like that. And when we moved, Cynthia was here. When I moved from Michigan, Cynthia's like, there's going to be a dinner of Hamilton Academy of Dentistry. You want to go to the dinner? I said, man, people, No, I know. She's like, yeah, let's go, because it's true. She's like, you need to find a job. I'm like, okay. So it's got me like dinners and social things. I'm like, okay. So we went, and she's like, there's the Portuguese guy. And I go to her, well, introduce him to me. And she's very shy. She's like, I'm not going to introduce him. Introduce him. He was your teacher. So in the long story short, I met Joe Da Costa is his name. So I met him in that dinner, and he's like, I'm opening a practice in Hamilton, which is the city I'm living in. I'm like, you are? Yeah. You want to come to the inauguration of the practice? Sure. So I go to the inauguration of the practice, like a brand new practice, beautiful. Everything top of the line, ADEC chairs, the best microscopes, Zeiss microscopes all over the place. I'm like, shit, I want to work here. This is and I'm like, okay. I thought he probably has people working for him, and one day out of nowhere, he calls me and says, like a week after or something, he calls me and says, hey, it's me, Joe. We were in a dinner the other day. You want to go for a coffee? I'm like, sure. I'm like, why not? I have no friends here. Why not? So I go for a coffee with him, and he's like, yeah, man, did you like my practice? Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I need to find an endodontist to work with me now. I'm like, man.
I'm your man.
And he thought I was working already, And man, I started working the week after, and we're together ever since. Man, he's the nicest guy, because you can find some AOs here too. Yeah. But no, man, he's when it's like when I worked with Mario, you have the same mentality. Patient is what matters. Okay. Yeah. And I worked in other places and where money matters more or profit matters more, and the patient is just an object that comes in and comes out. Okay, and even though patients come in and comes out, when the patient is in, it's the patient that matters. Okay, and for me, it's very hard to work with people that don't have the same concept as I do. And I did try to work with some people that didn't have the same concept, or that I thought again that had, but they hadn't. So and we just perfectly fine.
And so tell us, what's your typical day? What's your typical week in terms of I mean, how do you work every day? I mean, is it intensive? How many hours do you work a day? Do you work all the days of the week? What's your typical day and week? Yeah.
No, so our practice is 8 to 5 with 1 hour lunch. So we start at 8. We have 1 hour lunch, which we sometimes, usually we don't have because emergencies show up and we put emergencies at lunchtime. But it's that 8 to 5. I work Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I don't work full day on Thursday, and then I work Fridays, half day, and that's it. When I leave work at 5, I get a second job. I'm an Uber driver for my kids. Yeah.
Really?
Uber dead. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
How old are they now? How old are they?
11 and 14.
Oh, nice.
So it's soccer, it's swimming, it's, well, they can't drive, so we have to drive them. So it's it is what it is.
And
you do it with pleasure, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that now you have very clear lines between job and outside life. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you create that life work balance? What did you have to adjust? Social media, for example, was a step that you did, I think, for that, to achieve that.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that? Because I think that's a big thing for dentists. It's the holy grail. How to have work-life balance when you are a dentist.
It's a very individual situation because every person has different scenarios in life, different goals. Different persons are at different stages of life, right? At this stage of my life, I had to make that barrier because work was consuming me. And sorry?
No.
Continue.
I was saying that I had to make that line because again, dentistry. I don't know if every dentist will realize eventually that, but it's a very, very lonely profession. Okay, so we work alone. We take a lot of the burden of the treatments on ourselves. And if you are a person that has a personality like me, that for years and years, I didn't dealt very good with insuccess. And even though when I went to Michigan and you read the literature and you learn, okay, there's no 100% success, okay? You put everything, all your efforts that you could, that's success. But in the end, it's medicine, right? It might not work. Is it success of perfection? It's probably that. It's probably a pursuit of perfection that does not exist, right? Mm-hmm. And for years I had that until I learned, and I'm still learning, but I never dealt very good with success, and then you're alone and you have that burden of things not going well, and then fear settles in, and then when you do something wrong or something wrong happens, when you go do it again, because our work is very repetitive, right? You are afraid, okay, but you can't tell anybody that you are afraid because you are perceived as weak, right? So inside it's a lot. It takes a lot. It consumes yourself, okay? And for a long time I had that in me, and it's something that I try. When I say that I draw a line, is I try not to bring home the problems. Obviously, it's problems that I create to myself, probably, right? Inside my head of, oh man, I didn't do this very well or didn't do that very well. But I try I know that I put 100% of myself into what I do. So it's what I realize also is that I cannot be so tough to myself when I'm outside work, and that's yeah. And then imagine having all these issues inside your head, and then going to social media and say, "Oh, that guy posted that post, horrible case." It's too much. It's too much. There's no time for that. Okay, it's time to enjoy. It's time to be happy, and go travel. Instead of being on social media, or you have to plan your week in a way that I'm going to work really hard, and then the next week I'm going to go to Machu Picchu, okay, to relax, and I know that not everybody can do this because again circumstances are different for every person. But when you set a goal and you work and you realize that you got your goal done, it's rewarding, right? You feel accomplished. So that's what I'm trying to do nowadays. It's I work, I give everything that I can to my patients. I put the patients first, but I don't stress anymore as much as I did with the outcome, let's say. And I try to relax outside more and not think about dentistry that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you teach now? So,
No.
or is it completely? Isn't that in the horizon, like postgraduate teaching or stuff like that? Because I look at you, a guy like you, I think it's a waste if you don't teach, man. Don't you think?
Thank you. No, I don't know. I wouldn't say I wouldn't go back to it or that I would consider going back to it. I honestly feel that I don't have anything to teach. I think that I don't know, man. How do I explain this to you? It's the feeling that I don't know, call it the imposter syndrome or whatever it is. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough to teach. I have that sensation. I feel like, man, I'm speaking for. Are they enjoying this? Are they understanding this? I don't know. I think nowadays.
Yeah, I understand that, and I dedicate a lot of my professional life to teaching, and it is true. And I don't think that I always feel that. I have, even last Saturday I gave a full day class, and I think it was awful. And I gave that class hundreds of times. But sometimes the wrong questions from the wrong student completely fucks your day. But the thing is, do you feel that you need that there's a part of you that needs to express through teaching, or you don't feel that?
I go once a year. I go once a year to Egas Muniz.
Yeah.
And they are nice enough to invite me. They have a postgrad program in Endo there, and they invite me once a year in November, usually in November. And every year I go there for 2 days class. And
Do you look forward for that?
I look forward because I go back to my school.
Yes.
I'm with my friends.
Yeah.
But when I finish the day of teaching, I'm like, man, I'm not gonna do this anymore. So I say to an Azul, you know what? I don't. And she's like, oh, hey, you were so nice. Everybody loved you. You have the greatest evaluations. I don't know. It's something that I've noticed with the years passing that I don't know. I feel I'm very critical. I don't know. I'm very critical maybe with myself and the way I teach. But if I can make sure that the message passes correctly, I'm happy. But the thing is, I don't think the message that I have nowadays to pass is relevant enough, because I have the sensation that, man, you can buy a book, and what I just told you, you just have to read the book. Okay, that's what I think. So I feel like I'm here. If you ask me to talk like a talk like this is a talk about experiences, right? About
why won't you talk about that in your lectures?
Yeah. I would rather do that, and out of 100 people that are listening or whatever, you motivate one people or one person,
which is a success.
To make a difference, it's a success, okay? But what I notice is when I lecture in Portugal, when I go to EGAS, it's a very small environment, right? But when I lecture to Portuguese audience, and when I lecture about endo, and I try to be a little bit more on the side of I wouldn't say controversial, but not the
I understand.
Not ABC of endo. You have to do this, and then you open, and you have the straight line access. And because if you don't have the straight line access, the file will break, and this and that. Like, that's all bullshit, man. That's all. It's and when I go to Portugal and I lecture about something a little bit out of the box.
Give me an example. Give me an example of something in endo. Because as you speak, I was like, I really am fortunate because I can talk about prosto interdisciplinary dentistry, because there's so much outside of the technical part stuff that we teach, So there's this huge of communication with leadership, with management and stuff like that. And it's true, in endodontics, maybe it's just a little bit more limited, but I'm sure that if you think about it, like I was asking you, so give me an example of something more controversial or outside of the box that you would like people, that you think it's important for the message to pass on, and you feel that the audiences they don't understand it. Because let me be honest with you, today I prefer to lecture much more in Latin America and outside Europe, because I think that people are more thankful for that. And I think that people are less critical. Like you were saying, I think that Europe let's not talk about the political stuff, but I think that we are overcritical. We are overjudging each other. And sometimes I do refuse some invitations to Europe, because I really prefer to be paid half and lecture in Latin America. And so I completely understand how you feel. And sometimes it's a very lonely feeling, because you understand, look, there's so many things outside the technical part that I would like to teach. So this is what I'm asking you. So give me an example of something, because I'm sure that even in endo, there's something there.
So when you go to do an endo lecture, I always ask, what is the audience expecting me to give, right? And
I would disagree on that. I'm sorry to tell you. I think that sometimes you have to bring something different than what they would like. That what would you expect?
I understand. But in endodontics, and I agree with you, because I do it. And that's why I feel that sometimes.
I'm talking to you because I know you're a legend in lecturing. That's why I'm telling you this. And I want to.
It's just, endo, most, and I say most, but most people expect you to give a technical lecture. So basically what they want is a recipe. Okay, They want a recipe. If you do this, and this, success.
Yeah.
But that premise, we start by the wrong premise. That what is the success in endodontics? We don't know. Nobody knows, right? Is it the patient not having pain after? Is the tooth to be functional? Or is it the total healing? Because if an example, not being very specific to root canals, but if we do a root canal on a tooth that has periapical pathology, okay? And there's a reduction, you do a 5-year follow-up. The patient has a beautiful crown on the tooth is functional, the patient is chewing on the tooth, no problems after 5 years, nothing there. And the apical pathology is still there. Is that success or not? Okay? For me, it's successful. The patient came to me in pain with a pulpitis or whatever, or a necrotic pulp, doesn't really matter. He was in pain when he came to me, okay? I did a root canal. By all means I have to do, I did a root canal. On the x-ray, looks acceptable. The dentist placed a beautiful crown, margins are sealed. The patient comes 5 years after. There's no marginal bone loss. Tooth is functional. Chewing, the patient has absolutely no complaints. I'm going to say, well, I have to retreat that tooth because you have a periapical pathology. Okay? So now, if you tell most endodontists or most schools, people that teach in school, that when a patient comes in one point in time to you, and you were not the one that did that root canal, okay? And the patient comes to you, and you are a dentist that got that tooth 5 years after, and you see a tooth with a crown, with no marginal bone loss, in function, patient has no complaints, and you find it, and you send me, oh, this tooth needs a retreatment, because the root canal clearly failed, and you send to me for a retreatment, and I say to the patient, how am I going to improve your situation here? I'm not. So there's no treatment. Do you think the dentist likes the endodontist? No, he says I'm stupid because I didn't learn to grind on the patient. But I care about the patient. So how do you teach people that are starting in our profession that it's not A, B, C, and then success? There's lots of ifs in between. There's lots of ifs in endodontics. There's lots of ifs in prosthodontics. So you start being very critical, okay? And that's what, doesn't matter the specialty, you have to teach, I have to teach, Manuela has to teach these kids to be critical thinkers. That's what we need to teach them. They cannot go on the Facebook University and see, oh, André, oh, he does it very well. I'm going to copy him. It's not like that, because André, to get there, it was a process that took him there, okay? It's like diagnostic in endodontics. I talk about diagnostic in endodontics. Nobody cares about diagnostic in endodontics. They care about, oh, did you have the new blue files, the new reciproc files, the new X files, the new B files? Who cares about the file? Every file does the job. What you need to know is diagnostic. Do you know how to properly diagnostic pathology? Do you know how to deal with a medically compromised patient, okay? Exactly. You don't. Do you know what pathologies? Do you know a medical history of the patient? Do you know how to write a medical history for the patient? And then in Portugal, they're like, oh, don't call me dentist, call me medic dentista, right? Call me med, like, as I have to be a doctor. But then they care about the file. Man, that's like being a monkey. You know what I mean? So nowadays, I when I teach, or I'm very aggressive in the sense that I don't care what file you use. I don't care what system do you use. I want you to care about your patient, and I want you to care about knowing your stuff to provide a good treatment for the patient. And I honestly think we're not teaching that nowadays. So when I was teaching, I tried to be the person that, okay, let's not teach so much of the technical aspect of it. You can change the world. You can change the world because it's so enraised in the way. Not endodontist, dentistry is starting in schools.
Yeah, because what you say, I can certainly relate that to prosthodontics. We talk a lot about that on the podcast. We've been getting further away from the roots of the medical profession. And like you were saying, it's not about having the DR before your name. It's about being a good technician. I mean, we are dentists, and we should be good dentists. We are not doctors, let's say it. But we should be polite, and we should be able to provide a good job, especially when no one is watching. And I completely agree with you. And it is true that, I still feel frustrated sometimes, and I still feel ashamed sometimes, and a little bit out of place when some of these things happen to me in lecturing, and even in this podcast. I mean, some of my colleagues come to me and say, Well, but now you don't do clinical dance. You are only good in podcasts. I mean, it makes no sense to do a course with you because I mean you only do podcasts and stuff like that, you know. So, but having said all that, I think that dentistry, Portuguese or whatever, we do need people that lecture with your style. We do need that, and I mean, if you were a guy that never had any experience in teaching, but I mean, I know exactly your teaching capacities. That's just what I'm telling you. I think you should reconsider that. I mean, because it's and it's not about even legacy or whatever. It's just about having that thing sometimes expressed. That's the feeling that I have. I mean, but you are you know.
But
it.
It's hard because there's a lot of politics also. Okay, there's a lot of, you know, that everybody knows that there's a lot. The only persons that don't know that politics exists is the ones that are there and doing the politics. Okay, or taking advantage of the politics.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a lot of. My wife, she did a master's in medical education. Okay. And when she said, why are you going to do that? Why are you going to do a master's in medical education? Who cares about that? And only after and going through the process of her doing her master's, and I realized that there's a lot of knowledge behind teaching. There's a lot of knowledge behind theories of educating. There's a lot of knowledge on how to evaluate your students, and to be honest, I don't have that knowledge nowadays. I don't think the place where I would teach, I would be surrounded with people that have that knowledge, which would make me uncomfortable. In a sense that probably I don't think it's going to be a fair evaluation. But if we're talking about lecturing as going to a weekend course or something, I mean, it's something that, again, I'm not saying that I'm not going to go back to it.
Yeah.
Maybe here or there, but to be in a school teaching, I think it's very hard. It's because there's a lot of politics behind it.
Yeah, I agree with you. My academic duties are really low. I do mainly private teaching, but just reconsider that. That would be my. I would like
Diogo,
you to reconsider that.
Can I just ask you something? When it was always about the patient for you, or did you have that insight at a certain moment when you start working? So when you say that for you, okay, the technique, you learn it, you do it, and we know that dentistry is very repetitive. But you say, for me, it's about the patient, it's about the human connection. It was always like that for you, or it was something that you realized?
I think it was always, you know why? Because when I finished dental school 2001, like with you, I realized I knew nothing. I knew nothing, you know? And now I look back and I think if I didn't care about the patient back then also, I wouldn't have made the effort to learn, okay? Because don't take me wrong, I have colleagues that technically they're not very strong and they never cared about it. That's it. There's this level, they do general dentistry, that's it, and they live good with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and for me, I don't know if it was my I don't know, the way I my personality. I don't know. At that time I realized I can't. If I have stress doing an extraction, let's say, man, this cannot happen, right? Whilst maybe if I had a different personality, I'll be like, yeah, that's the way it is. Well, after tooth broke, better next time. And for me, it was like, no, this cannot happen. How can I do it better? You know, and for sure, I failed two or more, 3 or 4 or 10 more times, right? But you always care. Like you always care in a way that oh, I have to be better. This has to be not better for myself, better for the patient, for the outcome, right? So I think I think I had that from the beginning. If you ask me that, I think I had that from the beginning. Yeah, something I didn't realize when I got to school, but.
And you work as an associate dentist, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So, and the models in the US and Canada are a little bit different from the models that we have here in Europe, most of the cities. So, do you have any duties in terms of practice management? And if you do or if you don't, how do you see that in dentistry? Because if you heard some parts of the podcast, we talk a lot about that and the struggles that we have. So what's your position in your practice, and how much duties do you have of management, and how do you see dental management today?
So it's a big part of dentistry that I'm very thankful that I'm not part of. So that's the way it is, you know. I am very happy to be an associate at this point of my life. I'm not saying that I will not buy in the practice or anything, but
sorry, and your wife she's a clinician as well, or no? She works as a clinician.
She's a clinician, and she's an associate professor at the University of Toronto, Department of Restorative Dentistry.
Oh, she does restorative dentistry. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so she teaches restorative dentistry at U of T.
Okay.
And she's a clinician, so she has her own dental practice, which she manages, and I don't know how she does it.
Do you work there? Do you work in her practice?
No, because it's in the same city, and
for ethical reasons. For ethical reasons,
and I have a referral base. And even though that my referrals that know me, but I don't work there, and but you know, I don't want to be part. I can only imagine the stress that comes with management. The staff, number one, the staff, payments, bills, orders, inventory, leases, this, that, you know. I'm so fortunate that at this point of my life, that's why stress is kind of completely out of the equation here, right?
You had that in Portugal. In your clinic.
I had that when I was a terrible manager. I didn't learn anything. I'm glad I sold the practice, and when I sold it, I said never again. You know, I'm not good at it. I'm not good with. I'm not good with business plans. I'm not good with. I'm terrible with it. And you know, when Cynthia opened the practice, we had to do a business plan. And just doing that business plan, what it entitles, like numbers and perspective and projections and this and that, man, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. So in the practice that I practice now, there's two endodontists, me and Joe, and then we have 5 staff. 5 staff. And the only thing I participate in is staff meetings that we do in a regular basis for build up, right? It's something that we discuss a lot in staff meetings. Is that whenever there's a problem, people should sit together and discuss the problems and not go talk to the other one at lunchtime saying. So that's what we try to do, and you know, we don't have that much stress. For me, I don't have any stresses really. I go in at 7:30. I make my coffee. I sit on my desk. I turn my computer. I see my schedule for the day. I plan things. I do my job. At 5 o'clock, I go like, "See you guys tomorrow," and that's it.
That's
and
wonderful.
then when I leave, they say, "Oh, don't forget tomorrow we have a staff meeting at 7." I'm there at 7. Hi, make a coffee, and you know, I'm a very, very easygoing person. I know if my life took me where I am now, but I don't want any more. I don't want, if you ask me, but if you own a practice, you make much more money. I don't, man, what is more money? What is more, right? And I always tell when the assistants go like, "Oh, how is it in Portugal?" I said, I had the same microscope, I had the same chair, I used the same materials, and I charge $2,000 for a root canal here, and in Portugal I charge 200 euros. You think I'm happy? I'm very happy. That's it. Sometimes people don't know how we do it in Portugal the way we do it.
Exactly. I was about to ask you that.
Because they think, oh, you guys in Portugal, it's what? You put a K file in the canal, or you strip the nerve out, you put some endodontist, and that's it, right? No, man, we have microscopes. We have people. I always tell you, we have some of the best clinicians that I know in the world.
Absolutely.
They're Portuguese.
Absolutely.
But how can they charge 200 euros for a root canal?
They're heroes. They're heroes. Yeah.
And they pay rent, and they have children, and the children go to school, and they buy food for the kids, and everybody's happy, And you guys here, you make a lot of money, and you guys look terrible. That's what it is.
That's because of the lack of sun.
I guess, I don't know. I guess so. No, but you see a lot, here we have the dentists here. Then I say I'm very fortunate to work where I work, because it's not like that at all. But it's always more.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
more.
It's a different mentality.
The more you have, the more you want. The more and
it's a different mentality.
Yeah,
there's a lot of financial expectation out of the profession. And it's a completely different game. The dentistry in the US and dentistry in Europe, and especially.
But in the end, you're treating people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a person there. You're doing a root canal the same way. Yeah. Same teeth, same molars. Same.
Yeah. We are hoping not to be taking too much time. We have a couple more questions. One of the things that we have. Here, one of the questions is about developing yourself as a person and what you think is the right mindset for dentistry. Of course, that you have been telling us throughout your path that basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, you came to a point when you realized, well, what makes me happy is to reach my goal, to be with my family in that place. I am very happy where I am at the moment. I have I do what I like in the way that I like it, on the terms that I like, and of course, it's a very personal journey, as you mentioned, and also there are different cultures. I mean, Europe and Canada, it's completely different. But in dentistry, what do you think that other kinds of mindsets, for example, like you were saying, you are much more exposed to clinicians that the financial part is absolutely important. Do you think they are happier? And don't you sometimes see a pattern, which is sometimes the more complex, the more money, the more drama, and the more confusion, and the less happiness? Don't you think that?
What's happiness, right? What makes you happy?
It depends.
Personal.
Yeah,
it depends. If I know dentists that when they they get to the end of the day and they look on the computer and they say, "Oh, we made 15 grand today." That's happiness for them.
I understand.
Okay? I have other dentists that when they finish and they're like, "Oh man, you saw that kid that broke the front tooth today? We had a trauma. I could put the tooth back. I'm so happy."
Yeah,
that's for them. That's what matters. So it's very hard to say or to make or to make assumptions or to generalize to extrapolate to a population. It's everywhere. Everywhere you have people that are happy with one thing, other people are happy with that, in terms of dentistry, I mean.
Of course.
And so it's all about setting goals, really, and even though sometimes I have people saying to me, "Oh man, you were in the US and now you're in Canada and this and that," you don't know if that's my goal, or you don't know if that's my final goal. Yeah. What makes you think that I'm happy where I am?
So what is your final goal?
I don't know, man. It's always changing.
I don't want to play the melodramatic journalist.
No. It's a constant. I don't want to do this. We've been doing this for 20 years, right? And I think 15 more years, and then it's done. My goal, one of the goals to move here was not to tell my friends in Portugal, oh, I'm in the US or in Canada. The goal was because we wanted to give a better life to our kids. Yeah. Period. That was it, right?
Yeah.
Now that we're here, the kids are happy. We're established. So I have to think in 15 years, what do I want to do? And we were discussing that the other day because I was telling her that, I said, man, I want to buy a farm. I want to buy a farm. She's like, what do you want a farm for? Man, I want a farm. I want to have cows. And that makes me happy. And she goes like, oh, I thought you were going to go back to teach. When you retired, I thought you were going back to teach. And I said, yeah, maybe, why not? But I don't know. Today I feel like I want a farm and cows. So it's like that. I know you have to work, in my opinion, you have to work
with a goal in
for
mind.
A goal, right? And obviously if you can be happy while you do that, the better, right? But I don't know. I'm being where I am now. It's not the end goal for sure, I think. So, but I'm happy.
Would that farm be in Alentejo or something like that?
I don't know, man. I like it here. I really like it here. I really like it here.
The ones here are cheaper,
100%. But Canada is beautiful, man. It's. I wish you guys come here one day. Well, and if you want to come, you stay with us. No problem at all.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful country in terms of natural beauty, man. Portugal, it's stunning, right? I mean, it's our country, right? But Canada, it's insanely beautiful. Yeah.
Diogo, last question. How do you see the future of dentistry?
Well, young generations, lots of drive, lots of people with strong opinions. So it can only be good. I mean, I prefer to see the positives rather than the negatives. And
do you think we're going back to a patient-centered dentistry? Because we've been through a phase when we graduated. It was very money-driven dentistry, right? And you just said it. Do you think we're going back to a patient-centered dentistry with this new generation of dentists?
Unfortunately not. But I think there are. No, I don't think we are. As soon. I don't know if this generation will be. I don't think so. But we do have people within this generation, and I speak about Portuguese dentistry mostly, that are definitely good clinicians. I see a lot of young clinicians with a lot of potential, but they just want it very fast, right? And if they don't rush things, there's lots of things, good things to come. We have a very, very strong opinionated generation, and that's good because if it's a more laid back generation, it would be worse. But do I believe it's going to be more patient centered? I don't know, man. I'm very skeptical about this Facebook and Instagram generation. I don't know. I'm sorry to say this, but I am. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope these few that I know that are very driven to take the profession forward, that they step up and actually become leaders of the profession.
I have to say that I agree with you. I think that placing the patient in the center is not the strongest point of the generations. And I've been dealing with a lot of people from the 20s and their 30s. And I think it's sometimes when we talk about that, they feel a little bit odd, because it's not the environment that they feel more comfortable. I think it's a little bit strange for them. And But I think that sooner or later we'll have to come back to that. I think that sooner or later, and we always tell that it's not only because of It's not only because that is a danger for patients, not only that, but I think the biggest danger is for their own mental health as professionals, because I don't
Absolutely.
think. You're right when you say that. Yeah, for some dentists, it's happy to look at the numbers at the end of the day and say, well, we made 20,000, 15,000. It's true, but I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that sustainable happiness, or whatever you want to call it, can be achieved through things outside personal relationships or caring for the other one. I don't think that is possible.
I agree with you. But do they know that?
I don't think they do.
And that's the thing, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you leave years and years in that depressive mode of thinking that you are happy with what you have when you don't, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, it takes time. It takes time, and
Absolutely.
I think it is difficult to teach. It is difficult to teach. Look, this is what you should be doing if you want to be fulfilled. This is what we believe you should be doing if you want to be fulfilled with the profession, happy, and have a good laughs in a few decades. But I mean, it is what it is.
No, but it's good to, like Manuela started with the mindful dentistry, and all this is if you can't get any higher than this, at least you raise awareness, right?
Yes,
and
that's the
you
goal.
raise awareness for something that it's a breath of fresh air, because out of nowhere you had kids here. Out of nowhere, you had 5 endodontic courses, 5 surgical courses, 5 this and 5 that, and then you see like breath of fresh air. What's this? Mindful dentistry. What is this? This goes crazy. And it's that when dentists start realizing that it's not about the process, it's not about it. It really helps. It really helps. And I'm pretty sure you're helping a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. it is true. It's sometimes I haven't talked to you about this, Manuel. But yesterday it was Saturday, and I gave a full afternoon lecture on posterior tooth restoration. Actually, by the way, Diogo, we have a very interesting series of 3 articles for posterior teeth restorations coming out this year on the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to ask your opinion on that, because it took us 3 years to write that. But okay, but there was this girl, and she was in our courses. She was on our courses a few years back, and she was doing a refreshing on one of the classes. And says, well, she stayed up after everybody went, and she was there just showing me a case, and I was helping her with the case. And then we were both leaning, and she told me, look, and I listened to your and Manuel's podcast. Oh, and how do you find it? Well, it was really helpful, because there was a time in my life where I was completely, about a few months ago, where she was not happy because she changed the practice, and she was doing more of bread and butter dentistry, and she was not very happy with that. And she decided to do a 3-month journey alone through Vietnam or stuff like that. And she told me, look, I came back and I found the podcast, and it reignited something in me for dentistry. And you should tell that to Manuel. And I forgot to tell you that. Mm-hmm. So it's good. I think that
it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think that
it's about
this is what we try to do here,
like you were saying, Diogo. I mean, if I mean, most of my work, I feel like I'm talking to a big void, that no one is listening. And then there's one person that comes and say, oh, I really, because my what I feel is that we all feel this. What you said, the isolation of the profession, us being lonely, the mental health struggles, the searching for perfection, the dealing not good with success. They have to deal with staff and all of that. It's a very demanding profession, and we all feel it. But some of us can
hide it very well.
And some of us think, okay, is there more to it? Is there more to it?
Yeah.
Can I do it in a different way? You know, can I do it in a different way? But I think that, and going back to Portugal also, is that we are still very narrow-minded, you know, and if if we expose all of this, then we feel very vulnerable and we feel like we are being
you're perceived as weak, right?
Yes. So, but for me, it's all about, you know, okay, putting the word out there, and if I reach one person, then it's already a win, because this started also as my own process. But I think that more and more, it makes sense to say that yes, the technique in dentistry is important. It's the base of everything. You have to learn the technique, but you learn it and you do it. And then
after correct.
And then you have to take care of yourself. You have to really invest in taking good care of yourself, so that you can be a good person when you are in that chair with your patient, and that you can be yourself, your true self. Because what you said in the beginning, Diogo, I think it was beautiful, because you said, I'm just being me. I present myself as me, because if not, that's a lot of work. Now, imagine all the struggles in dentistry, and then having to be something that you are not. When someone enters your cabinet and you put on this mask, so it's get a lot easier if you just be yourself, and if you learn to enjoy the profession and to have fun with your days and with your patients also, because the technique you learn it. And even with the technique, it's just like you said, who measures success? At the end of the day, it's you, because the patient is yours. And if the tooth is functional and if it works,
100%.
That's success for you. So I think it's very important. Thank you so much for being here with us. It was really
thank you for having me.
to hear it. I think I agree with Andrea. You have a lot to say. You have a lot to teach, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing you. And also, Andrea, continue to say.
And I was about to tell that it's very good. It's very refreshing to have someone so transparent as you, and so open to exposing yourself. That's very good.
But see, for example, maybe that's not the way I'm perceived, right? Because of reputation. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Think so. I don't think. Well, at least. But again,
I don't care.
One of the things. Yeah, but one of the things that I notice is that in endodontics, especially within because endodontics was probably the most active community in social media in Portugal in the beginning. And there was a lot of wars of schools of this and that. And in Prosto, I don't think there's that much, but in Endo, sometimes it got really nasty, wasn't it? I didn't understand that. But like I was telling you, I've never met you in person, and even in your clinical work, I can't judge it, but I knew that you were very passionate about teaching, and you had some very good documentation of cases. But I always felt a very good energy from you, and I knew we would have an excellent podcast. So thank you for being so
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we
hope to see you in Portugal when you come over.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Me and Jorge André, we have a conscience leadership course that we do in Sagres, and if you ever want to join us, you're very, very, very welcome to join
Thank
us.
You.
Really.
Yeah. The place is
Thanks,
very
guys.
nice.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice chat. I think that was basically what it was, right? A chat between friends. And I hope you guys keep doing what you're doing. And again, Manuela, if it inspires one person, if you, Andrea, inspire people by your posts, by your do it, man. I saw your app came out. I saw your app advertisement. See, if I hadn't gone to social media, I wouldn't have said something. It's an app, right?
It is basically an online software to present treatment plans, and make sure if you want to try it, it will be more than happy to use it.
So guys, much success for you, and all the best.
Thank you, Diogo.
Thanks
for you
so
too.
much.
All the best. Thank you so much for giving us time. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.